In this video, we are going to go through the common rhetorical devices or strategies that you may consider for both reading, writing, public speaking, and even in your own everyday speech. Let's dive in and let's get started. Anaphora. Anaphora uses repetition at the beginning of successive words, phrases, or clauses. Here is an example. To think on death, it is a misery. To think on life, it is a vanity. To think on the world, verily it is. To think that here man hath no perfect bliss. The repetition of to think creates a rhythm and establishes a pattern, giving the reader a contextual framework for understanding the ideas. Epiphora. Epiphora is the repetition of a word or phrase at the end of successive clauses. It is also known as epistrophe. We can say that this is the counterpart to anaphora. Where now? Who now? When now? Now is repeated at the end of every sentence. Another example. She's safe just like I promised. She's all set to marry Norrington just like she promised. And you get to die for her just like you promised. Promised is repeated at the end of each sentence. By doing so, the writer emphasizes and reinforces the meaning of the word. It brings attention to the words that we have in our examples, now and promised, as important part of the text. Chiasmus. Chiasmus is the reversal of syntactic structures and successive phrases or clauses. Here's an example. Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate. It is a two-part sentence where the second part is a mirror image of the concept of the first. Another example. Do I love you because you're beautiful? Or are you beautiful because I love you? The deliberate reversal is for the emphasis that gets the audience attention and make more powerful points. Zeugma. Zeugma uses one word to modify two other words in two different ways. Let's look at this example. She broke his car and his heart. Broke has two different meanings here. One, it means to separate into pieces as a result of a blow. And the connotative meaning of broke here is like broken heart, a state of extreme grief or sorrow. Zeugmas will either confuse the reader or inspire them to think more deeply. If they are well written, they will achieve readers' attention and thought processing. Oxymoron. Oxymoron uses two contradictory terms combined side by side in order to create a rhetorical effect by paradoxical means. Here are examples. Civil war. They appear side by side or close together. Civil means peaceful, while war means a big fight. Another example. Open secret. A supposedly secret, but it's a known fact to many people. I will ask the professor for her unbiased opinion. If we describe someone as unbiased, we mean they are fair, but opinion suggests subjectivity. So all of this emphasizes conflict. Antithesis. Antithesis is designed to highlight the differences of two irreconcilable opposites in parallel structure. To err is human, to forgive divine. Two ideas are connected by contrasting them. The first idea, to err is human, is used as a reference point for a contrasting one, to forgive divine. Another example. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Unlike an oxymoron where contrast is side by side, In antithesis, the ideas are juxtaposed or just near each other, and often, of course, in parallel structure. Here we have small, and it is being juxtaposed to the contrasting idea of giant. Neil Armstrong brought the change when he made that step. Before that step, we were a civilization that had never stepped into another world. The small step led to a giant leap, as we are now a civilization that conquered another world. This contrast gives the balance and emphasis which would lead to understanding of a very complex idea. Paradox. Paradox is the use of seemingly contradictory situation which is actually true. At first it seems to be contradictory, but upon reflection then it makes sense. Here is an example. I must be cruel to be kind. This is from the work of Shakespeare. In this case, Hamlet believes that the murder of Claudius, now married to his mother, will be for her own good. If he does not want his mother to be the lover of his father's murderer any longer, the use of paradox engages a reader to discover the underlying logic which might seem contradictory statement, but later allows readers to understand concepts of truth behind the contradiction. Asyndeton. Asyndeton is the omission of conjunctions between coordinate words, phrases, or clauses. It is used to shorten a sentence and focus on its meaning. Julius Caesar, living out the word "and" in the sentence "I came, I saw, I conquered," asserts the strength of his victory. The sentence "I came and I saw and then I conquered" is a weaker sentence for his purpose. Polysyndeton. Polysyndeton uses "and" or another conjunction to separate the items in a series. Let's look at this example. I wore a sweater and a hat and a scarf and a pair of boots and mittens. It makes the sentence slower and then the items more emphatic than in the asyndeton. It suggests a piling up of detail or creates a fluid, continuous sentence. Rhetorical question. Rhetorical question is asked not for the purpose of getting an answer, but for the purpose of provoking thought. It is used for effect, emphasis, or for drawing conclusions from the fact at hand. Let's look at an example from Shakespeare's work. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? This is Shylock's series of rhetorical questions, which encourages identification with the speaker and conjures sympathy for him. There are two main types of rhetorical questions. Questions whose answers are so obvious that there's no need to say them, or questions without any answer at all. Hypophora. Hypophora is raising question or questions and then proceeding to answer them, usually at some length. What then shall we say that Abraham, our forefather, discovered in this matter? What does the scripture say? Abraham believed God. A common usage is to ask the question at the beginning of a paragraph and then use that paragraph to answer it. Here's another example. Why is it better to love than be loved? It is surer. Writers use this to create curiosity among the readers, while a well-timed silence produces heightened effect and creates interest. Denotation. Denotation is the direct definition of the word that you find in the dictionary. We define house as something referred to a building or structure which exists physically. a dwelling place. Connotation. Connotation is the emotional suggestions of a word that is not literal. If you were to look up the words house and home in a dictionary, you would find that both words have approximately the same meaning, a dwelling place. However, the connotative meaning suggests that it has an additional meaning. Home is different from a house, as many people associate such things as comfort, love, security, or privacy with a home, but not necessarily make the same association with a house. So the various feelings, images, and memories that surround the word makes up this connotation. Hyperbole. Hyperbole is an extreme kind of exaggeration to make a point, but not to be taken literally. This is often used in a humorous way. Here is an example. I am so hungry I could eat a horse. The state of being hungry is exaggerated. These high heels are killing me. In both examples, the writer uses extreme exaggeration to make a point or show emphasis. They are not considered truth and should not be taken literally. Understatement. Understatement is to intentionally make a situation seem less important than it really is. It is true, but not the strongest claim that could be made. Here is an example. She gained a little weight. It's not a big deal jumping from size 8 to 16. Whoa, jumping from size 8 to 16 sure is a big deal, at least for me. The writer expresses an idea deliberately as less important than it actually is, and this is for ironic emphasis. Tropes. Tropes are figures of speech that move the meaning of the text from literal to figurative. Like simile. Simile is a figure of speech that compares two usually dissimilar things using as or like. Her smile is as bright as sunshine. Personification gives human attributes to inanimate things. The eye of the needle is small. Euphemism. It uses words that are not used in literal sense, like passed away instead of using died. Metaphor makes a resemblance between one thing and another declared by suggesting that one thing is another. You are my sunshine. And irony. Irony is the use of words to convey a meaning that is opposite of what it is actually. It's too crowded when you are referring to a place where there are not so many people in there. Okay, we will cover more of figures of speech in future videos. So now, let's review rhetorical devices and strategies that we have covered. Anaphora and Epiphora. Anaphora is the repetition of words, phrases, or clauses at the beginning of successive sentences, while Epiphora is the repetition of words or phrases or clauses at the end of successive sentences. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. Example of anaphora. Epiphora. At the end, when I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. Chiasmus. Chiasmus. Two or more clauses are balanced against each other by the reversal of their structures. Example. Poetry is the record of the best and happiest moments of the happiest and best minds. The reversal is not done word for word, but somehow explains the first clause. Zeugma. Using one word to modify two other words in two different ways. I lost my keys and my temper. Lost has two meanings. Lost key is when you can't locate where the key is, while losing a temper has a connotative meaning like losing one's patience and become enraged. Oxymoron, antithesis, and paradox. Let's go discuss this and find the differences. Oxymoron is the combination of two opposite words used side by side. Like, it was a small crowd. The place has a deafening silence. The opposites are side by side. Antithesis juxtaposes two contrasting ideas in parallel structure. So they are not side by side actually, but juxtaposed. It might be near each other. Example: love is an ideal thing, marriage a real thing. Mark Twain made a statement about love, and that's it. That, in other words, love is blind, but marriage is a real eye opener. Paradox juxtaposes two seemingly contradictory ideas that reveal a truth behind. I know that I know nothing at all. We don't see here something that is used side by side, so it's not an oxymoron. The ideas are not in parallel structure, right? I know and nothing. They're not parallel, so therefore we could say that this is paradox. Is there a truth behind this? Let's see. From the perspective of Socrates, any knowledge or information he did have was likely to be insignificant compared to how much was left to be discovered. So we could say that there's a truth behind what he was claiming here. Asyndeton and Polysyndeton. Asyndeton omits conjunctions. It is a northern country. They have cold weather. They have cold hearts. Instead of using conjunctions, semicolon and comma are used in the sentence. Coordinating conjunctions are used in succession for polysyndeton. And Joshua and all of Israel with him took Achan the son of Sarah, and the silver and the garment, and the wedge of gold, and his sons, and his daughters, and his oxen, and his asses, and his sheep, and his tent, and all that he had. So, polysyndeton uses conjunctions after every word or term. Here we use and, but there are other conjunctions which are coordinating conjunctions which could be used, like for, nor, but, or, yes, or so. While in the case of asyndeton, it uses no conjunctions but only commas, sometimes semicolon. Rhetorical question and Hypophora. Rhetorical questions are questions asked without expecting an answer. What time is it now? If you have ever been late, someone might say this. What time is it now? This person doesn't want an answer, but making the point that you are late. Hypophora asks questions and provides an answer to that question. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. There you go. The answer is given. Denotation and Connotation. Denotation is the direct definition of the word that you find in the dictionary. Connotation is the emotional suggestions of a word that is not literal. Let's look at this boy. This boy could be described as homeless. Homeless is adjective to describe a person without a fixed residence. Vagrant is a disparaging description. A person without a settled home or work who wanders from place to place and lives by begging. So vagrant suggests a negative meaning for this. Understatement and hyperbole. Hyperbole. Understatement is exaggeration that is always lesser than the actual. It's true but less. I might need a jacket today. I might need a jacket today, even though the temperature outside is 7 degrees below freezing. Hyperbole is an exaggeration always way over than the actual. So we could say that there's false in it. It's not true. You're as light as a feather, referring to someone who's slim. Tropes. Tropes are figurative or metaphorical use of a word or expression, like simile. A simile is a figure of speech that compares two usually dissimilar things using as or like. I slept like a dog. Personification gives human attributes to inanimate things. The wind howled last night. Euphemism uses words that are not used in their literal sense. We have to let you go when you mean you are fired. A metaphor makes a resemblance between one thing and another declared by suggesting that one thing is another. The warrior has a heart of stone. Irony is the use of words to convey a meaning that is opposite of what is actually said. Saying, beautiful weather we're having during a thunderstorm. That is an irony. We will have more videos about figurative language soon. Alright, so these are what we covered today. Rhetorical devices. Rhetorical devices can make communication effective. They are linguistic tools that employ a particular type of sentence structure or pattern of meaning in order to evoke a particular reaction from the audience. In this video, we covered the common rhetorical devices or strategies that you may consider for both reading, writing, public speaking, and even in your own everyday speech. Which is your favorite rhetorical device? Please let me know through your comments. Thanks for watching.